Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video, and this time I wanted to talk about something a little more on the theoretical side. Oh, Evie knows it's time. Welcome. And that is the potential of a SIVA-based season. I hope my S's aren't too sharp in my recording settings, because I'm going to be saying SIVA a lot. This is spawning from a current social fan-made movement called the Plague Gang, which are pushing for Season of SIVA, or Season of the SIVA, I don't know, something like that, where it's a collaboration between a bunch of kind of fan artists and animators, started by this guy named Blue Jay, who you may have seen. He did these cool SIVA-based mods that he kind of worked up as part of his resume for a Bungie interview, which he got, and it kind of escalated from there. I wrote a whole article about the Plague Gang and SIVA push by the fans today. I'll link that in the description, so I won't go totally through that here, but I wanted to talk about kind of the potential prospects of a SIVA-based season, because even before this, I mean, I've been hearing about people wanting to see SIVA come back for a very long time, and like I've even seen, you know, Cosmo collect feedback of like, we've relayed to the team that you want a SIVA-focused plotline, and I've seen some of the Destiny artists like asking like, would you want a SIVA-based season, like in the wake of this right now? And fundamentally, I think that we are on the road to get a SIVA-based season, because if everything, you know, if the player base is into something enough, I have found that Bungie usually will kind of acquiesce to it outside of certain exceptions, but I think we have gotten a lot of the storylines that we have based on player feedback, at least to some extent. Yes, some things may have already been planned, but I think when fans focus on a particular area, like, hey, what about that Exo Stranger? Or, hey, like, we saw Uldren resurrected a year and a half ago and nothing's happened. I think that can kind of push them in one direction or another. We already know that works for gameplay, which is, you know, they shape the entire game and the reward structure and stuff based on fan feedback. And then when they go super against it, it doesn't really work out that well, as we've seen with Sunsetting. But it's kind of this push and pull. But I think fundamentally with this much interest in SIVA that we will probably see a return to it at some point. It has barely been in D2 at all. We have Outbreak perfected, and SIVA gets mentioned in the lore very rarely, every so often, but I can see us moving in that direction. Why is everyone so obsessed with SIVA? That's something I've been kind of figuring out myself. Like, I'm not 100% sure why, but I think it's a combination of factors. Rise of Iron was the big SIVA expansion, and that is kind of viewed as a bit of a golden age in Destiny history, at least in terms of the health of the game. And while the expansion itself maybe wasn't like Destiny's best expansion, there were very, you know, a lot of aspects that people liked from it. People love Wrath of the Machine, the SIVA infected raid, the Plaguelands were cool. I think people just really like the SIVA aesthetic, the red and black, the little, you know, polygon, or not polygons, diamonds and nanite things, and as a gameplay mechanic, I think it's fun. We've only had, you know, one true SIVA-based gun in Outbreak Perfected, but that is a extremely popular weapon, so much so that it was brought back in what is one of Destiny 2's best quests for 0 Hour, and people just really like SIVA. And it's this kind of just force in Destiny where even if it's not like an actual individual, it's just this sort of presence that exists outside of light and darkness. And it is controversial among the characters, to say the least, where Saladin's brothers and sisters are all slaughtered by it as the Iron Lords, whereas we are kind of a lot more into it, employing it in our weapons, and kind of being best friends with Rasputin lately, so we'll see. I do not imagine that we would get a SIVA season this year. Like, that's very kind of last minute notice, like, and you could say Bungie had it already planned, but I don't see that happening based on what we know already. So we have 2 more seasons to go, probably. Let's say jam a third one in there, until the Witch Queen in sometime in early 2022. And we know next season is going to see the return of Vault of Glass. This season is probably going to end with an alliance with Keitel. Fundamentally, we are just on this very set track of dealing with a combination of the darkness in the Hive and kind of being allies with the Cabal and sort of the Fallen with Mithrax against them. And it is very hard to see where SIVA would fit into this current plotline, especially in the next 2 seasons. Next season, I'm sure there will be some story reason for going back to the Vault of Glass. I don't think it'll be just brought back like a Sepix Prime thing. I think there will be a story reason for it, and that maybe a Vex focused season as a result. And it's hard to see, they're not going to do a SIVA season in the next like month and a half here. After that, the season before Witch Queen would probably have to be something leading up directly to the events of that. So I think we're going to have to deal with SIVA Wrath. I think that the darkness will be a big focus of it, and my personal theory for the season before the Witch Queen is the breaking of the Dreaming City curse and the return of Mara Sov to kind of once and for all put that to bed, especially if we are maybe heading toward a point where Forsaken content is going to be sunset. Instead of the darkness, I can do a whole other video on this, but instead of the darkness just absorbing the Tangled Shore and Dreaming City, I can see some sort of ending for that where the curse is lifted and all the enemies are gone after we do whatever thing we need to do with Mara Sov, and that's the reason it's sunset, because it's safe, not because it's destroyed or teleported away or whatever happened to the old zones. I don't think they can just keep putting zones in darkness shrouds. That doesn't really work. So that's kind of the end of the season at that point, and then we lead into the Witch Queen. But we have at least 2 more years after that would require 4 seasons each, technically. One that goes along with each expansion. We have a year, and then Lightfall, and then another year, and then some unnamed expansion that we just recently know exists. So yeah, I can see SIVA being a focus in one of those once we kind of move on from the Savathûn storyline. And we already have some threads of that in place. They were kind of set up during the whole season of the Worthy. Yeah, that was kind of most of it. And the season of Arrivals. I'm losing track of them. But that was kind of the Rasputin-focused seasons, which kind of all culminated in nothing because the darkness just insta-gibbed Rasputin as soon as they arrived. Now Rasputin is needing to be transported into some sort of special exo-body for him. We did see that he was trying to rebuild Fellwinter, and it's, I hear a lot about, all the SIVA caches are destroyed or whatever, but like, it's science fiction. You can kind of do whatever you want, be like, there's a surprise SIVA cache we didn't know about. There's some rumors that there might be SIVA on Nessus, and people are thinking that if Nessus continues to stick around for a long time, that it could get the kind of Plague Lands treatment where it expands and gets corrupted by SIVA in some future season. I've heard whispers about people wanting to see Failsafe corrupted by SIVA to see what that would be like, which would be fun. And then there's Rasputin and Fellwinter, and like I'm not going to write a whole storyline in my head right now, but like you can see how there could be pieces of that in place. I actually don't think it's the worst idea to potentially introduce SIVA in the future as some sort of gameplay mechanic. I really did actually like the concept of SIVA as I guess, I don't know if it's seasonal, but like a yearly mod thing, like Warmind Cells or Charge with Light or now Elemental Wells. Like just the nanite thing seems like it could be a potentially cool thing. I know once upon a time people were talking about SIVA subclasses and stuff. I don't think they would go that far. I do think we're getting more darkness subclasses, but SIVA wouldn't really be a darkness subclass, so I don't imagine that is how that would pan out. But I am all for an increased role of SIVA in the game, and we rarely see it. We've gotten a couple like SIVA-based ornaments, I think, a season or so ago. We had a few of those for some of the exotics, but it doesn't come up that often, but the fan base is very much obsessed with it, as has been made clear by this recent campaign. But even before that, I just would not expect it until at the earliest next year. And I just think there is too much interest in the concept of SIVA and the aesthetic and like everything that comes with it for Bungie to kind of never return to it. I think it's a little different than something like SRL, which they probably never will return to because it's really time consuming to build tracks and stuff. But I mean, never say never. But this is something that I think is one of those fan things where it's like, if you bring it up enough and you bring it up enough, like, yeah, it'll probably manifest itself eventually. I think it will probably take a long time and we might be waiting for it for a while, but my guess is that this does happen at some point, and I guess in a year and a half or whatever, I can reference this video and say I called it, but there's no real downside to it. I think it doesn't hurt to focus, have a season focused on something like that. Bungie has gotten away from kind of seasons that are really cut out of other seasons, like this year where everything is kind of leading into the same storyline. So we don't know what the plot of, Lightfall is going to be, or the expansion after that, and what threats we're going to face and things like that. So, it might be a little backbending to get SIVA to fit into that, but I wouldn't rule it out either. And it's just such a constant presence and constant request from the Destiny community that like, I know they paid attention. I know they've absorbed the feedback. So I'm guessing they are probably already plotting something like this. I would just not expect it in the next 2 seasons before Witch Queen, because it doesn't really fit there. But that's my thoughts on potential SIVA season, and maybe I'll go into my whole Dreaming City curse breaking theory another time, but that's still pretty far away too. So, yep, thanks for watching. Evie, are you sleeping? Evie, say goodbye. Okay, Evie says goodbye. All right, I'll see you guys next time.